Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first live stream episode of Amplify Alaska. We're so excited to be bringing this to you guys right now. And our first musician up today that we're featuring is Emma Hill. She's an incredible artist, and the organization that she has chosen as the fundraiser tonight is NAMI, the National Alliance of Mental Illness. Take it away, Emma.
Chorus of cicadas as the day gives way to night. Stars arrive above us, the moon is on the rise. Clouds move so slowly, they seem frozen in their flight. Pink glow gives way to shadow as they settle into night. The mountains all decline in shadowed glory, shadowed sighs. Now they're just a thin black line between me and the sky. If you could hear them howling, if you could be so still, if you could hear this nature's hum, I hope someday you will. If you could hear them howling, if you could be so still, if you could hear this nature's hum, I hope someday you will. I hope someday you will. Hope someday you will. All right. Hi, everyone. My name's Emma Hill. I'm really excited to be here on the first episode ever of Amplify Alaska. And I've got a really good friend of mine here to join the night with me. Jason Lessard, how you doing in there, friend?
I'm doing great. That sounded wonderful, Emma.
Oh, thank you. That's a fun new song of mine for a side project I'm doing called Park Songs. So that song was inspired by some time spent in Big Bend National Park. So Jason, I have you here because you work with NAMI, and I'm going to let you tell everyone what is NAMI. It's an organization. Can you tell me all about it?
Sure, yeah. So I'm the executive director of NAMI Anchorage. It's the local affiliate of what is the National Alliance on Mental Illness. And it's the nation's largest grassroots, peer-led and peer-driven organization that deals with mental health and mental illness and providing support and education for people in their various communities.
Oh man, and that's awesome. And that we're going to get into more why that matters so much to me and some really cool collaboration that Jason and I have already done. But I guess just maybe give me like a quick understanding of how you came to be involved in NAMI.
Happenstance that the job opening was there for my direct involvement, but the passion comes from people in my life that are very close to me that have a mental health condition, and I've lost several close friends to suicide, and it just seemed like a really important cause, and I really appreciate the work that this organization does and the way that they go about doing it as a peer-led organization. So those things meant a lot to me.
Nice. Well, I know that it took me a while. I wasn't familiar with the organization, and then it was actually several years back before you were the director over there that I got involved in my first fundraiser for them. And a couple of good friends really just pointed me in that direction. My friend Courtney was like, hey, you need to this is a local chapter that's doing the work and doing great work. And so I was so thankful to be pointed in that direction because basically it's very near and dear to me. I have a mental health condition and have since I was young. And so I've gone through a lot of transformation and healing and what I will call like my mental health recovery. And I'm so thankful that organizations like NAMI exist. And for anyone out there, if you're dealing with this, there are so many resources, and we're going to talk more about that. But I just want to say right off the bat, like, NAMI is a great resource, but there are so many other resources, and these conversations need to be had. And I think that you and I have talked about this a lot. These conversations need to be had because there's a really terrible amount of stigma surrounding mental illness. Can you talk a little bit about why this affects everyone in our community and why that stigma is so dangerous?
Yeah, and great question. So statistically, 1 in 5 people in the United States on any given year is living with a mental health condition. So it touches each and every one of us, whether we know directly or not, whether someone close to us has it or not. There are people in our lives that have it. And so in that respect, it's really important that we have an understanding about that. One of the things that NAMI's been trying to do is to push for these conversations to happen in school, in our education. Again, the more information and more understanding we can have early on, and the busting of that stigma that this is an illness just like any other illness with another organ in your body. We don't stigmatize people with cancer. We consider them survivors. We don't have condescending names that we call them like we do people that have a mental health condition or mental illness. And so that stigma carries a lot of shame, and it's isolating for people that have a mental health condition or have these feelings, and it prevents a lot of people from finding the help that they need. And so that is probably one of our biggest challenges and one of the biggest dragons that we try to slay is the stigma surrounding mental illness.
Yeah, and that I would say that's kind of what introduced me into activism surrounding this. I realized that if I was lucky enough to have a stage to perform on, I should probably be talking about something that matters to me. And that stigma is something I experienced throughout my entire life and held a lot of shame around it. And part of my recovery was letting a lot of that go and realizing that not just for myself, but doing the work to actually get people to understand what that stigma is and why it's so crucial that we break it down. And so I'm excited to talk more about how we can do that, how everybody can get involved. I just want to say hey to everyone out there watching. This is so awesome and crazy that we're making new things and exciting things happen amidst a very crazy time. And I'm so happy to be performing and get to be talking about this organization that means so much to me. I will say, normal shows, I'm looking out at all of your beautiful faces. If you happen to be watching and feel like getting involved, we would love for you to post on any of your social media if you want to take a picture maybe of you in front of me playing a song or a little video clip. And we've got a hashtag for the event tonight, and that is hashtag AmplifyAK. So tag us. It's going to be a way for us to help spread the word about what we're doing. And then most importantly, donations are so encouraged for tonight. It's all going towards NAMI. We're going to talk a little bit more about the exact programs that it's going to help fund, but your donations tonight are going to NAMI, and it means the world to me if you can make a donation. And so there's actually a link, if you're watching over there on YouTube, over in the comments section, the link is posted. So thank you so much. And I'm gonna play another song. I'm gonna play 2 Seconds Flat, and then we'll talk a little bit about why I've been thinking about this song today. I take 2 steps back if you meet me in it all. Come to terms with the fact that you love me just a little. I'm a firecracker, you can watch me burn. I can light up the night, but we might get hurt. Don't say you didn't hear it from me. I might fly like a bird, but my heart ain't free. I'm still stuck playing this same old deck. It's all hopeful hands and risky bets. And it can take all day to climb up to the top. You got to risk it all. it's a long way, but it's only 2 seconds flat when you fall. We spent the summer being lonely together, 'cause even in sorrow company is bitter. Drank and we cried till we both near drowned. Now I know it's time to put the bottle down. Don't say you think you know better than me. I'm a grown-ass woman and I know what I need. 29 years may not seem real long, but the years are always longer when they're already gone. And it can take all day to climb up to the top. You got to risk it all. And it's a long way, but it's only 2 seconds flat when you fall. When you fall. When you fall. So, I'm gonna tell you the story behind that song and why my heart's kind of bursting right now. I wrote that song almost 4 years ago to the day, and I know because today happens to be my 4-year birthday of not drinking alcohol. And this is not at all to say that I'm saying that, mental health recovery always has to mean, dealing with a substance addiction, but for some of us it really does, and for me it really did. It was a problem that had unfortunately kind of teamed up with my mental illness as a way to kind of simultaneously really keep me from being in a healthy place. And it took me much longer than I wish it had to realize that. So today marks a really big deal for me, because it was really 4 years ago on this day that I was able to not just dedicate to my physical health and removing alcohol from my life, but I feel like it was the true time that I was dedicating to finally get my mental illness in check and to work on that recovery from both things and simultaneously. And I can't express enough. It was the best decision ever. And I'm so just full of gratitude to be where I am today and to have the tools that I've put in the work to have the tools to fall back on, because of course my mental illness is not gone. It is, it exists in my brain, and as we were saying, the brain is an organ, and unfortunately the way my brain works, it has an illness, and I'm really lucky. It's not everyone's path, but for me, I'm on medicine. Medicine helps me function and helps me love life and live with joy and live with a lot less anxiety than I did before. So Jason, I'd love to hear you talk a little bit about that, because I think that when we talk about stigma, like we were talking about earlier, there's a lot of stigma surrounding both addiction and how people want to say that that's not linked to mental illness, which we know now it absolutely is. Studies show that it is. And then I would love to hear you talk about that, which I know that's a big thing, but also if you want to talk a little bit about the stigma surrounding medication. That's something I've dealt with in my life and try to talk to and explain to people that, medicine is a good thing. It's great. It's a great resource.
Right. Right. Better living through science, right? Well, I guess, first of all, congratulations on 4 years.
Thank you. Thank you.
Amazing. I'm so happy and so proud of you. And I can see the difference in how that's impacted you. And I'm just...
Thank you.
In regards to stigma, well, first we'll talk about addiction and the issues that can pose in relation to a mental illness. A lot of that goes back to stigma, right? So when when people have shame or feel that isolation and aren't seeking proper channels for help, they cope in other ways. And oftentimes when somebody should be getting medication prescribed by a doc that they're not seeing because of that stigma, they're self-medicating, and they're coping through alcohol and drugs and things like that. And it just becomes this downward spiral. In a feedback loop that's really, really hard to get out of. So we do, there is a high comorbidity of addiction and mental illness often. The stigma regarding medication, stems from I think a lot of the same issues that people have with the stigma around just the illness itself.
Yeah.
Like there's something wrong with you personally. Not that it's this organ that is dealing with your cognition and everything. It's your fault, it's your problem or something like that. And oftentimes the seeking of treatment, which is also the medication, can cause problems. And people feel like you should be doing breathing exercise and meditation, and that's going to be all that you need. And those are helpful tools to have in your toolkit. But oftentimes medication is needed, and unfortunately there's still a lot of stigma around that, even when people do recognize their illness and are trying to help themselves.
Yeah, I would really like to talk about that, because one of the things I knew that I had made a pretty serious breakthrough in my acceptance and understanding of my mental illness when I realized that I don't take medication because I'm weak. I take medication because I'm strong enough to take medication and to know that there is science and there is this resource available to me to make me my better self. And it took me, unfortunately, years and years of both my teenhood and my adulthood of just having so much shame of being like, well, if it's bad enough that I have to be on medication, it puts me in this other, it puts me in this category, and realizing the category, it's about realizing if there is a tool that can help you be safe and help you feel better, it's like, yeah, let's go to that. Let's work with the science. Let's talk to the medical professionals. And so that was huge for me. I guess also talking about tools, I just want to explain to people that I get asked a lot, what do you feel like the big shift was? And it goes, you mentioned coping. I think, and I always use this, I always tell people, I think that a lot of just life and existence is using coping mechanisms, because there's so much, I'm talking on a really existential level of there's so much we don't know. There's so much that can feel really overwhelming. But I think it's about finding healthy coping mechanisms, because there are so many of those. And maybe that is some nice breathing exercises and meditation and yoga, or having 2 little adorable dogs. I may have adopted the world's cutest dogs during quarantine, y'all. Not gonna lie. It really helps. It's about there's these things that you can elevate your joy level in a healthy way. And I think that a lot of people think it's just all or nothing. And it's about finding the balance between trying to shift to where you're having more healthy coping mechanisms than the non-healthy ones, and understanding that giving yourself grace. It takes time. Mm-hmm. But that, I don't know, it's less of this all or nothing, until I'm perfect, or also that you ever think you're going to hit this magic spot and you're just going to suddenly be fixed or cured. I would like to talk to you about that before my next song, because that, I think, can you talk a little bit about the recovery process and that idea of that just because you have a mental illness doesn't mean that how you're feeling right now is going to be that way always?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, and I would, co-sign on the use of those tools, the breathing exercise, getting outside and things like that. Those are things that we all need. We all have mood swings, and we can all have depressive episodes without being diagnosed with a mental health condition. So, great tools. I'm sorry, what was the next question?
I was asking, now I just got distracted too. Hang on a second. I can come back to it if I need to. How it's not forever. Idea of, because I think that can be really overwhelming when you're dealing with, and maybe in crisis mode, but even not so much, when you're just basically realizing and confronting that you are dealing with this, or you've been recently diagnosed with a mental illness. I think it's so crucial to talk about the recovery process what that looks like. And yes, it's ongoing, but that this is not how it's going to be forever. There's hope. There's so much change to be done and help to be had.
Well, I mean, I would point to you as an example of that, right? Recognizing that recovery is not linear, that there are going to be ups and downs is also really important. It's not like, okay, I got a doc and I'm on meds now and things are going to be great. It is an ongoing process. And for some people, it's a lifelong process. But that doesn't mean that you can't live a successful life. Again, if 1 in 5 of us at any given time during a year are struggling with a mental health condition, there are so many successful people and people doing amazing work and leading wonderful lives, raising beautiful families and children that have a mental health condition, and it doesn't hinder them. I mean, it can certainly provide a hindrance at times in your life on a downstroke or something, but it is possible, and it's important that we talk about that again, because it's that stigma that, you know, once I get this diagnosis, it's like a condemnation to something, and that's not the case. That's a recognition of the situation, and then you work from there. It's not an endpoint, a diagnosis, right?
Absolutely. I'd like to sing a song actually about that. This is a song I wrote because there are so many people in my life that I feel, you know, everybody can always use like a little bit of a pick-me-up, right? And just like a pep talk. And this song is kind of meant to act as a pep talk, but really just acknowledging, again, I get to tell stories in song, and I also like to tell the stories surrounding them as well, because I like both forms. But this is basically just, it's like realizing that self-esteem is such a huge thing, and I think that the shame that comes along with the stigma can often really affect people's self-esteem. And when you are not able to see yourself as others see you and all of your shining light and all of your, just all the wonderful things that make you you, it can be a little bit easier to succumb to some of that darkness and some of those dark thoughts. So I wrote a song called See You Like I Do. Girl, you better get your head back in your shoulders. What they gonna say now that you're older? It's so hard not to be so sad. Sometimes you gotta be your own better half. Wish I could shake you right out of your skin. Remind you what matters is what's within. You can paint outside lines, just as long as it lights your fire. And I believe that you will come to see the truth. See you like I do. See you know that now is not forever. Sometimes it gets worse before it gets better. It's not hard to ride the highs if you accept that they come in tides. You know I love you now and I love you forever. Lucky that our souls surface together. It's a joy to know you're mine. I hope you won't waste this precious time. And I Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And real quick, out there, if you're watching or maybe you're just tuning in, please know that this is a fundraiser show for NAMI, and Jason is the director. That's why he's here. We're having a conversation about NAMI Anchorage and all that they do for our community. If you would like to donate to this fundraiser, you can find the link over in the comments section of this YouTube page. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's crazy times. I'm so glad that we have the technology, and everyone here at Frostline Studios is just working so hard so that we can still have this show and talk about why it means so much to us. And I guess that's going to be a good segue for, I'd love to talk about kind of how you and I have come to, besides the fact that we're old friends because we're both musicians and in the music scene, but it's been a couple years now since you and I started a collaboration over something called Sound Over Silence. And I guess I'll kind of start us off and talk about, so, you know, you mentioned before about losing people in your life to suicide, and I have as well. And it's heart-wrenching. And it's one of those things that every time it happens, I just go, dang it, like why again? Why are we not further along in the progress surrounding the help and the resources that surround this illness? And for me, I had already been doing some activism in the form of talking about mental illness on stage and fighting that stigma, but I needed to take that a step further, and I wanted to specifically help with our local community here. And so I reached out to you saying, I don't know what we can do, but how can we do it? And you just hopped right in and said, hey, like, it can be channeled through NAMI, but it can be its own thing that's really focusing on some of these programs specifically aimed at mental health education and suicide prevention. Can you talk a little bit about some of those programs that were all the fundraising you and I have been doing with a couple of our other Sound Over Silence shows, what that's going to go towards?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head with the education. Really, that's what the money's for. Getting back to stigma and having open conversations about this. That's one of the things that the programs that we are supporting with this funding will help to do by getting people comfortable with the conversations, right? One of the things that we often talk about in regards to suicide prevention is so many people think it's taboo to even say the word suicide to somebody that's considering it. And it is proven time and again to be the opposite case. So it's a matter of getting people comfortable with the conversation. So we are, right now we're hindered with what we can do in the community because of COVID. But ultimately, this funding would go towards things like putting on mental health first aid education in the community. Mental health first aid is exactly like it sounds. It's a training on how you can stabilize and de-escalate a situation until the first aid responders can get there and help with that situation. We've talked about using the funding for pamphlets. Yes. For we're looking at potentially some other shorter education program that we can do online. But really, the idea is to use this money raised in our community to do outreach and education in our community.
Exactly. And I think, my driving force, I remember that morning I called you, and I think my main line was, I want to know how we can get this education out so that no one has to say ever again, I didn't know what to say or I didn't know what to do. And that's not putting pressure on that person. I just want to be really clear about that. There are so many elements to this, and it's awful when we lose people to suicide. But I just want to know that at least we've equipped people with the tools. And I think that's education is, it's the step in the right direction. And I'm so thankful that you and I have been able to collaborate and raise money so that we can further that in this community, specifically our community, which means so much to me. I love this town. I love the music scene in this town. I love that I get to call Anchorage home, Alaska home. And I want good things for it. And I want the future to be bright for our children and just for all of us, So I will say, this is a great opportunity for me to mention, if you're tuning in out there, there is that comment section that I mentioned before where you can donate. But that comment section is also up and available we're going to do a Q&A later on during the show. So if you have a question that you'd like to ask either myself or Jason, and it can be, NAMI related, it can just be, it can be just about anything. I know it's crazy times. Maybe you just want to know something about one of the songs or something like that. But feel free to throw some of those questions in there, and we will get to them a little later in the show.
Could I say something about our community?
Oh my goodness, yes, please.
Not to be the numbers guy, but I think this is really important to recognize. So
Okay.
The second leading cause of death in the United States for people between 10 and 34 is suicide. In Alaska, for youth between the ages of 10 and 24, it is the first leading cause of death. It is a problem. And so having these conversations, the programming that we're trying to bring forth with the funding from Sound Over Silence is extremely important. But I don't want to, well, I think it's important that you don't minimize the work that you were doing before Sound Over Silence with just at your concerts having those conversations and just being frank and real about it in situations that aren't specifically geared towards that, because that really helps to bust that stigma down. People are going to come to a fundraiser for mental illness and expect to hear those conversations and that kind of stuff. But by you making this a part of what you do as a musician is really important, and that means so much. So thank you for all of your advocacy efforts in that respect.
Oh, thank you. And it's interesting. I definitely have had some people, come up to me, especially earlier on. I feel like I can feel the momentum happening with people wanting to get on board with helping us fight this stigma. I do. Even compared to 5-7 years ago when I first started, I realized I was going to make some people uncomfortable. They're like, hey, wait, we came to a concert. We're drinking wine. Like, why are you talking about this heavy stuff? And then more often than not, I realized, no, I was going to continue doing it because of the amount of people that came up to thank me, either because they themselves were dealing with something or a close loved one was dealing with something, and they just so badly wanted to know that the future was brighter for them. And I'm glad that I've been able to move into other areas. But like you said, I think, talking to you guys out there, you don't have to host a fundraiser. There's so much community involvement that can be done on really small levels that, again, we were talking about how just those conversations, maybe even just within the family, kind of having a talk that you do to just help understand those numbers don't lie, like if families are talking to the young people in their lives, whether it's your kids or maybe, a niece or a nephew, to just be having these conversations and checking in, and also that it's okay to talk about how you're feeling. Feelings, being vulnerable is not a weakness. It is a strength. It means that you are able to connect with another person on something that's very personal to you, but it opens up that channel for communication, which I think is so crucial. Mm-hmm. Do you have anything more you wanted to add on that?
I would say one of the things that at our first Sound Over Silence concert, you had done a great job getting musicians that wanted to be a part of it. I really expected you to take the lead on the conversation. I didn't expect that every musician that got up was going to share their own personal story. And so it just kind of illustrates that it just takes some people to open up and start that conversation, and pretty soon others are going to open up. Because after that show, folks told me I didn't intend to have this conversation, but I just was so inspired by what other people were sharing and felt that it was a comfortable space to have that conversation. So I think it just, like I said, it illustrates that how much opening and sharing your own story can be a help to other people.
Absolutely, and that's why I'm so thankful to Amplify Alaska for having us and creating this platform. This is episode 1 and of many. This is going to be a really amazing new series, and it's always going to involve an artist and an organization that they choose to fundraise for, and then someone from that organization, like yourself, will come in so that these conversations can be had, because we want you guys, the viewers, to have a real understanding. It's one thing to ask for people to donate, but I wanted you to understand why this matters so much to me and all the amazing work that Jason is doing within it. But Amplify Alaska, by creating and all the work that's going into creating this, beautiful setting to have a live stream concert, there's a lot of work behind the scenes. So thank you so much to Frostline and just everyone involved, and to all of you for tuning in. I just feel like I want to talk about, I think that the setup for this show, it really is providing this kind of crossover of people understanding that music and musicians in general are activists. Maybe not always to the extreme that I have made it part of my life, my career, but what a wonderful way to realize that we have this platform to speak from. And so if we can make our audience aware of these organizations that mean a lot to us, I think it's a really special thing within our community to build those relationships. So I mean, I'm so thankful for ours, but I'm excited to see in the coming episodes of Amplify Alaska, who these other our friends and our artists are choosing, and the organizations. I'm just so excited for that. The education surrounding the organization, but also just to more about the musician when you see what it is that they're super passionate about. So I'm thankful. I'm just thankful all around. It's a good day. I'm gonna play you guys another song. I want to talk so much, but it is a concert, so. Old knickknacks, a shoebox of bad news, torn up letter and a picture of you, and the years they've flown on by, but sometimes too late at night I can see dollar, an angel with no wings, chipped glass and brass, wind it up to make it sing, and I never lost the tune, always reminded me of you and the smell so young then I didn't have a clue that I could wake up in a world without you, where I'll find until we're not, and that's the only truth we've got to cling. Sometimes too late at night I can see you at the edge of the light. I can see you at the edge of the light. Oh, knickknacks, a shoebox of bad news, a torn up letter and a picture of you. Oh man, so that's a really new song of mine. I actually wrote it as another song I wrote during the Hunker Down, and I kind of just want to talk about how storytelling, both in song, and you work with an amazing organization called MHATS, and I'm just going to tell a little bit about the story about this song, and I would love for you to explain what MHATS does, because I love it. I've got to witness several of their shows, and I've just been like blown away. But yeah, I just think that storytelling in general through art, it creates connection, it creates relatability, and when you're having to talk about the tough stuff, and you're able to like show that vulnerability and show the courage that it takes surrounding it, I think it it brings out courage in others. It inspires others. It reminds them that they're not alone. And so I would love to hear what MHATs, what they are and how their advocacy is playing into that idea that healing through storytelling is so crucial.
Sure. Yeah. So MHATS is the acronym for Mental Health Advocacy Through Storytelling. It is a storytelling group and program that was developed by high school students. I've been involved with them for about 2 years. Early on, I went to their second meeting and became the adult advisor. They recognized the need in their community of peers in school. The fact that nobody was talking openly about their mental health or knew the avenues to seek help and so on and so forth. So they applied for a grant through Anchorage Youth Development Coalition and Spirit of Youth and got some funding and started what is essentially a 10-week program where we work on some education around mental health. We bring in some other organizations to maybe talk about the intersectionality between mental health and LGBTQ plus communities or what have you. And then we work on stories that culminates in a community storytelling event.
Awesome.
And it has been, it's become a passion project of mine. I'm so inspired by these students. They're heroes to me. I have tremendous respect for them. And there has been, you had mentioned storytelling and how it can open up conversations and such. After that first storytelling event and subsequent events, storytellers would come back and tell the group that they had students coming up to them in school saying, I think I need to talk to somebody. I don't know how to talk about it with my parents, or I don't know how to seek help. And so that is an amazing thing right there.
Yes.
And when we talk about storytelling, I think the partnership that we've got with your tunes and the work that we do really is based on this storytelling thing. And you can create connections, and it's also a means of advocacy, right? So sharing your story, telling your truth is a political act.
Yes.
And sharing, advocacy, I've heard it told in different ways, but it is basically storytelling with a cause. And that's what, it can be a pointed song of yours, or it could be the stories that these students develop. And so we're in our 4th cohort. We're planning a storytelling event in December, I think. We're going to try and do a distance one.
We're going to need that, so I'm glad that that's in the works.
Yeah, and I think we have a video queued up.
I was going to say, I think that we actually are going to get to share with you guys one story through MHATS, and I don't know if did you select this one? Do you have anything you want to say before it queues up, or?
Yeah, so this is Natalie Fraser's story. She founded the group and was an early facilitator. She's since moved on to other things, but I think this story really illustrates so much about what the group is about and the importance of opening up and having these conversations. So I won't belabor the point anymore. I'll let Natalie do all the talking because she's so eloquent.
Wonderful.
So our next storyteller is Natalie Fraser. She's also a senior at West High School. She loves rollerblading, and in 3rd grade, she knew that she thought that her favorite food was mashed potatoes, so much so that she wanted to go pro making mashed potatoes. So please give a warm welcome to Natalie Fraser.
Okay. Oh, I'm gonna raise this thing. Okay, so I always tell people that the song is like Flo Rida. It goes real low, but it gets back up again. So, warning. This might be a theme, but in my sophomore year of high school, my life... Oh yeah, sophomore year is rough. I'm so sorry for everyone who's currently in it. In my sophomore year of high school, my life became incredibly boring. And when I say that, I don't mean that I had nothing to do or no one to do it with. I mean that every day I would sit on my bedroom floor and I would scroll through unopened text messages and I would feel completely unable to answer a single one. There were reasons why I might have felt this way. It rained for like the entire first week of school. My best friend moved to Michigan to pursue professional trombone. I was doing way too much on too little sleep, but none of that was it. It didn't explain why, when I was in choir, I always felt like my throat was closing up, and that everyone could hear how pitchy I was, and that they must hate me and want me to be out of their section. It didn't explain why, when I hung out with my friends, I felt like they were living lives that I just couldn't access, right? Like they had the Breakfast Club life and everything like we want teenagers to be, and I was just like living this really like gray existence. And one of the other ways I describe it is it was this feeling of every single day and then every single week I'd say, I just need to get through this week. And I would get through that week and then I'd start the next one with just a little bit less. And it took so much energy to put into school, to put into debate and choir and everything else that I did, that by the time I got home, I didn't feel like I had anything left for myself. And it was every week my energy got a little bit less and a little bit less, and I hated the things I was doing more, and they were boring and dysphoric, and none of them felt like me. And one time I was at a party and I turned to someone and I said, hey, do you think I'm depressed? That was kind of a joke, but you know, not really. And they laughed, because I guess it was a joke to them. And they said, well, like, aren't we all? Which is like a fair point, right? Like we joke all the time about depression in high school, it's normalized. And also, after that party, I spent months continuing to feel like that. And they stretched. Until one night, I started planning suicide, and once that thought entered my head, it was like I literally could not stop. I would think about it when I was doing choir warm-ups, when classes were boring, I would weigh the pros and cons of different methods in debate. And one night I was sitting on my bathroom floor reading the WebMD article about the effects of drinking drain cleaner. And there's one sentence in there that says, people who drink drain cleaner often experience vocal hemorrhaging, causing them to lose their voices forever. To understand what this meant to me, we should zoom back. Ever since kindergarten, I've been the girl to raise her hand first in class. If there is an awkward silence, I will break it. I talk to people in elevators, at the bathroom sink, waiting in the grocery store line. Some of my biggest dreams in life have always been to write a presidential speech or to give a TED Talk. I've been doing I did choir for 6 years of my life. I am still in a band with my best friend where we write our own songs. I've been doing debate for 4 years of my life. So much of my life is based around my voice and the things it brings me and the joy it brings me. And also, my voice at that point was a mask, where I could give happiness and energy to so many things, to my classes, to my friends, and I wasn't leaving anything to myself, and I also felt this incredible obligation to be happy for everyone around me except for myself. But in that moment, I had to actually think about the things my voice had given me and the joy it brought me. It was how I connected to my friends. It was late night conversations. It was reaching for ever deeper connections with the people I care about. My voice is how I stand up for what I believe in. It's talking to legislators and lobbying. It's teaching middle school sex ed. Very weird. Right, and all the time I thought about what losing my life would be like, I never thought about what losing my voice would be like, and it was so much more real. So I got up off the bathroom floor and I went into the living room, and I told my parents I'd been seriously considering suicide for 2 weeks, and that I wanted to go see a therapist. And I am one of the lucky few people who has great health insurance and can see an accessible, affordable therapist. But one of the things we often gloss over is that even after I started getting treatment, I still didn't feel cool or fun. I didn't get why the people in my life liked being around me, and I didn't understand why they cared so much about me. But they did. All of the people my entire life who had told me that my voice was important were the people who told me that my life was important. My best friend would call every week from Michigan, and when I didn't feel like I had anything interesting to say about my life, she would tell me about the minutia of being a professional trombonist. I volunteer to teach middle school sex ed, and the facilitator of our group would text me and check in and said that I hadn't seemed like myself lately, and asked if anything was going on. My choir teacher played this song about mental health in class, and we had this in-depth discussion about it. I will never know what any of those people knew about what was going on in my life, but I do know how grateful I am that they were there. And I also know how grateful I am to have my voice. When we started this project a year ago, our goal was to be the voice that we never had. And it's also like completely counterintuitive to stand in front of your classmates and people from your school and tell them the most incredibly personal details of your life, right? And also, I think that's how we actually create change. And so now, to me, my voice is doing stuff like this, and it's being the person I never had, and it's being able to stand up in those moments where you need someone to stand up and say something. So, I'm not gonna wrap it up really neatly. I still struggle with school stress and trying to find a good balance as we approach college. I still go see my therapist. I think she's one of the coolest people I know. And also, when I have those moments where I don't feel great, where living in Alaska and being in high school is pretty hard, I also have this incredible support system of people around me. And I have what I discovered on the bathroom floor, that I am impossibly hard to shut up. Thank you.
Oh man, I'm so glad that we were able to share that video. That was a really, just really something, you know, I know tonight's about NAMI, but I just wanted to just like have a little section of it, talk about that amazing work that both yourself, but really those kids are doing with MHATs. And wow, that story is so powerful. Mm-hmm. So powerful. Well, I was informed that we got some questions from viewers, and the first one, I think this is pointing towards me, so I'll handle it. It says, how do you personally navigate self-doubt in a career that requires you to be your most vulnerable self? Holy cow, good question. And then they added, also, do you think your performance self is different from your civilian self? I will say it at times is really hard. And I think it's interesting how kind of in the old days, the old me, I, of course, did a lot of self-medicating, and I was very fortunate in the fact that I somehow, I think deep down knew that I should never mix drinking before performing. I really kind of held that as like, you know, I was a functional alcoholic. My career meant a lot to me, and so drinking was always the after thing. And the self-medication, though, I think made a lot of the things, even though I wasn't drinking before the show, just kind of knowing that I was going to get to do that after, and that kind of that escape and that let loose, which for me was not healthy. It was never a healthy amount. I always overdid it. And so now, as a non-drinker, there are things that I realized that I was doing a lot of self-medicating around, such as, you know, the level of certain things like social anxiety and things that I deal with. It's so funny. People always say, you couldn't possibly have social anxiety. You're a performer. I say, oh, no. The stage is where I'm in control. It's when I'm having to wander through a crowded bar and I don't feel like I know anyone. I'm like, why am I here? So, you know, that's real. That's a real thing. But I think whoever asked that question, it's so crucial because, yes, I am not going to lie. There have been situations where I have driven up to a show and I've had to sit in the front seat before leaving my car and give myself a pep talk and put that smile on. And I try really, really hard to play shows where I know I don't have to do that I can be my authentic self. I can talk about where I'm at in my head that day. And part of knowing that is, I think, why it's really affected my career. It has everything to do with, you know, I started the series Bernard Song Circle because I wanted a safe space for musicians to talk about the stories behind the song, which often, as we know, telling your truth, like it is in that storytelling that the healing is able to be done. And so I guess navigating it is, I just, you know, it's one day at a time. And it's knowing that I love to perform so much that maybe there's, you know, every now and then going to be the hard day, but most of the time it's absolutely like, it's what brings me so much joy and really lifts me up. So thank you for asking that. Jason, there was one for you. How do you help a friend that is struggling but might not be ready to reach out? I think this is so that's definitely a really great one for you to answer.
Yeah, being present. I mean, that's such a big part of it. You don't have to have the answers to any of this stuff. Just being there to listen and being there to support is really one of the most crucial things. I would say, we're trying to put on these programs that would help give people a toolkit to better navigate a situation like that, but you don't have to have that to be a good support for somebody. Just be there to listen, be there to help, and be there to help them navigate without necessarily having to have all the answers yourself. And reach out and call NAMI. There are other organizations that can provide some help and guidance, because it's, as much as it's a difficult time for your loved one or your friend, that can vicariously have effects on you. And one of the things that we talk about often is the old the air mask in the airplane. You put yours on first before you help someone else. So it's really important to be mindful of where you're at too, and take care of yourself. So I hope that's an answer.
It was totally an answer. And just, oh my gosh, self-care is so, so crucial. Because again, if we can't, if we're not in our best self, it's going to be incredibly difficult to try to be that support system for someone else. So thank you. I think there's one more question. I bet you and I both have a little something to add to this. I think this is such an important one and kind of help summarize why we're doing events like this. As a parent, how do I talk to my kids about mental illness? I'm just going to kind of talk a little bit about my own personal experience as a kid, figuring out that I had mental illness. And I am happy to know that things are changing, because I'm going to be real. It was really scary. It was overwhelming. There was still a lot of stigma. For the most part, my biggest things, I just had no idea what was happening. I just knew that it was bad. And because it felt bad, it felt like I had shame surrounding it. I didn't know how to reach out, and I didn't know how to express what it was I was experiencing. So I will say is, again, this education, busting down the stigma, and just having conversations surrounding it. I'm going to let you, I know that you're going to be able to way more eloquently express, specifically for parents, how to talk to their youth, but just in general, getting everyone comfortable with talking about the fact that mental illness exists, it's a real problem, and what to look out for, and how to reach out if you're ever seeing those signs.
Yeah, it's the signs is an important thing, right? So as a parent, being mindful and watching how your kid is doing, just looking for if they've been withdrawn or have been feeling sad for weeks at a time. That's the definition of a depressive episode, if they're self-harming and things. But just being frank, and it's being frank and open with your child about things. And you don't have to name things. You can just ask how they're feeling. You don't have to bring in mental illness as a term, capital lettered, and because that can be really scary, again, because of the stigma.
Yeah.
So being in tune with your friends and your loved ones is really important. And then again, I would suggest reaching out to NAMI Anchorage or Alaska Behavioral Health, or some of these organizations that might be able to provide some education for you, or some tips to help navigate that difficult situation. But in all of these situations, it's being present as a friend, and being open and supportive is crucial. By doing that, we dispel the stigma.
Yes.
By being present for someone and being there to help them, it can help do away with a lot of that stuff that person's dealing with, and building up things in their brain that aren't even necessarily true, right? I mean, you get so wrapped up in your own head.
It's like a maze you're trying to navigate. I mean, I always tell people, if you've never experienced depression, it's very, very difficult to express, but it for one thing, your brain can literally lie to you, and it's just crucial to know that the person experiencing this is not, they're not seeing everything clearly all the time. And so knowing that in advance of just preparing everyone around, again, just having these conversations. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I just wish that I had just, again, it's just like talking about feelings, that just in general, maybe take, like you said, take mental illness out of it, but even just in our society, making it okay to talk about your feelings, and honestly, and in depth.
Yep.
And recognizing that's not a weak conversation, or that's not a, let's make sure to not, like, that can be with anyone that you feel close and safe with. You should feel absolutely okay with talking about how you're currently feeling.
Mm-hmm.
So that's crucial.
And I would like to plug two things at this point. The National Suicide Prevention Hotline.
Yes.
1-800-273-TALK. That's a clunker. Thankfully, the Senate has passed a bill recently to make it a 3-digit number, 988. It should have been done years ago. But that is a resource both for people that are feeling suicidal and for people that might need some help navigating that situation with another person.
Yes.
The other thing I would suggest, and this is another way that we're trying to be proactive about education and bus stigma. The MHATS crew and NAMI Anchorage and the NAMIs around the state have been really pushing for a bill to standardize mental health education in schools. It's called HB 181.
Yes.
You could contact us for more information about that, but I would say one of the simplest things that you could do is to reach out to your lawmakers and say you support this in schools, because again, mental health is health. It shouldn't be a separate category, and we need to talk about this openly with everybody, but starting with our youth.
Yes, we do. Oh man. Well, I'm gonna do another song, I think, because we're kind of getting down towards the end of this program. I'm so happy that we got to do this. I'm gonna do it an Alaskan inspired song. Again, I'm so in love with this amazing community that we have and this beautiful state we get to call home. I was meant to roam over land and sea. I was meant to climb high on mountain peaks. I was meant to search the word I know is true, finding all that's right, finding all that's good. I've seen many things. The lights, they shine in Paris like a dream. The bus in Costa Rica buzzes noisily, and it still takes my breath away to see Denali. I was meant to love, fire in my heart. I was meant to fight, a light out in the dark. I was meant to hope the world would somehow see a path to better days, a path to finding peace. I've seen many things. The northern lights in Fairbanks and emerald green. The bell tower in Brussels rings gloriously, and it still takes my breath away to see Denali. Oh, it still takes my breath away to see. Bad at night, late at night, I don't so much. Jason, thank you so much for being here and for just everything you've had to say and sharing this momentous occasion with me. You know, episode 1, how lucky I feel. Do you feel as lucky as I feel right now? I feel like we got in on the ground on something pretty awesome. So yeah, thanks again to everyone involved with Amplify Alaska. Thanks to Frostline Studios for providing this amazing space to do this in. And Jason, thank you for taking the time.
Thanks for having us and supporting the work we do, and for all that you do for the cause as well, Emma. And I would echo the thanks to Amplify Alaska and Frostline and this amazing experience. It's been wonderful.
Awesome. I'm going to close out with a little ditty and just kind of a fun one, an uplifting song that brings a smile to my face. And thanks, guys. Thanks again so much.
Well, that concludes the first episode of Amplify Alaska. And make sure to tune in next time as we learn more about some more local artists as well as new organizations to donate to. And also, let's give a big thank you to Emma and a thank you to Jason. They are incredible people that are doing some amazing work here in Alaska. We can't thank them enough. Well, also remember, if at any time you want to watch this episode in the future, you can find it on our Facebook page and on our website. Also, the links to the donations will always be up. So if at any time you want to donate in the future or know somebody that might want to donate to this organization, please shoot them the link, and you can find it at amplifyalaska.org. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.
See the light on the sand and it lit up the sea as you took my hand. Supermoon. Was a supermoon, supermoon. It was a supermoon. Da 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 da. You started a fire, and I opened the wine. And you played me some cards, and you said it was fine. Supermoon, it was a supermoon, supermoon, it was a supermoon. Happy Friday, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great night.